Less stress, more time, more money. Welcome to the Cash Flow Contractor. Interview.
Martin, how long have you known Kris Pettigrew?
I don't know. I have to say, I don't really know him.
He's a complicated person to know.
4 or 5 years?
That's for sure.
4 or 5
Yeah,
years?
I was thinking this morning, literally, how did we meet? You introduced me to Tammy Hasselwander. It wasn't the other way around.
That's right.
That's right.
JTC, John Thomas
Yes,
Construction.
that's it.
That guy, because I was asking him, we were at a point at FPS where
That's right.
we were
Jason.
struggling on how to manage the business and how to manage every financial aspect of it. And I was poking around with people, asking them if they knew any business consultants that could come in and help me with things. And a month later, I got contacted, and then that was
Right.
Jason
Thomas,
had recommended, hey, this guy I know is having a kind of a group get together thing. Might be something you want to go hear.
That's right. We went
That's
back
when
and
John
talked.
and I came down.
Right.
So,
Nice.
Yeah, we can give a shout out to Jason. He has a hiring method for tradesmen where people get ranked. But anyway,
he does
JTC.
really good for the fire alarm industry in Oklahoma. He is the good thing about him, if you don't want to hire somebody off the street that's green, you can go to Jason and you can get a guy that's already vetted, licensed. He may not have any experience, but he's ready to go. He's fresh, and he's temporary. So if you don't want him, say if it doesn't work out within 60 days, you can just be like, Jason, look, this guy's not going to work out. Then you can have the option of hiring him. But for short-term staffing on fire alarm jobs, he's been wonderful.
Right.
That's cool.
He has a nice pool to choose from.
And he ranks those guys
Yes.
on things like, do they show up? He's got apps that follows them.
Absolutely.
Do they have a driver's license? And a few of those things like that kind of wind up mattering in the in the long run.
Absolutely. He tried to work with the sprinkler end of it, and he did for a while, but they were having. He got to see how bad injuries were in sprinkler, how bad they could be, and I guess he had a couple injuries, and he backed off of the sprinkler labor contracting.
Gotcha.
Well, so why are we talking about sprinklers? Yard sprinklers?
No. We have this trouble when we do their ads.
Fire sprinklers.
Fire sprinklers.
So,
Fire suppression, technically, but fire suppression can fall under almost every class of fire extinguishing system there is. So
Yeah.
we call them fire sprinklers.
well,
Yeah.
what is your company?
FPS Technologies,
Fire protections,
fire protection safety.
safety.
Yeah.
That's right.
Went
That's
to
right.
school at Oklahoma State University for fire protection safety engineering.
And that's so interesting to me. Like, when you went to college, that you were going to do that kind of engineering?
No.
Because I didn't even know that was a degree, to be honest.
It's a big
Is it
deal
pretty?
at
Is it
OSU.
pretty popular at OSU?
It's the number one place in the United States to get a fire protection engineering degree.
Wow, that's awesome.
University of Maryland is second to it, and then Kentucky is third, and then there's like 4 other schools that offer it.
Yeah, I have a.
So it's not a major degree
It's not a major
nationwide.
degree nationwide.
Well,
people,
it's an
people from
important-
all over the world come
Yeah,
to
it's an
Oklahoma State,
important-
Maryland for it.
Important
Wow.
degree. A friend of mine's son went through that, and he's a fire prevention technology guy at a nuclear power plant in Washington, or maybe Oregon, but out there. It's
That's
an
where my
important degree.
My brother, we went to school together. When I went back to college, my brother was in college, so we lived together, and he ended up getting into the degree I was in, and we graduated together. And he went to work for a nuclear plant right after college for about a year down in South Texas, and it wasn't for him.
Yeah.
So he moved back to Oklahoma, and I put him to work for me at Luckenbill, who was people that I were working for.
You said you went back to school. What does that mean?
Well, when I graduated high school, I went to college for the first semester, and it just wasn't my cup of tea.
Yeah.
I didn't work super extra hard in college to try to get into the big universities coming out of college, so I was kind of left behind. Went to Oklahoma State, OSU, OKC, and I was too busy enjoying myself and having a good time, and I withdrew myself.
In other
from
words,
school.
normal.
Yeah. I went to work for my parents' company. They own their own business, and
What company is that?
HEI. They do heavy haul trucking.
Okay.
Over the road, specialized.
So you grew up around that?
Wind blades, yeah, oil field stuff, rigs, things like that. And enjoyed that, made good money, and then I went to work for another guy, Mako Chemical. They do, oil field blended chemicals, different things, and they're friends of the family. And I really kind of found myself while I was working there. And, I got to the point where I just wasn't happy. I saw what other people were becoming and just knew that, I needed to do something different because I don't want to do this the rest of my life. And that's when I went back to school. When I was researching.
How old were you when you went back to school?
23.
Okay, so you were working for a few years.
Yeah.
And then you decided, that's a hard decision.
It is. I was making pretty good money too.
Right,
So,
that's the thing. I mean, so many people in trades and in these, contracting businesses, you can make good money, well over six figures, even doing, stuff that doesn't require a degree. So it was definitely a commitment on your end to go to college.
At 23, I was making in the mid 60s.
Yeah.
And I walked away from
In
that.
Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma.
Which is pretty
2004,
good in Oklahoma.
5.
Oh yeah, that's great in Oklahoma.
Yeah. So it was a tough decision. I did a lot of research in it, and I was looking for safety, but I didn't want to go to UCO. UCO has
You mean
an
a safety
industrial
degree, not personal safety?
Yeah. When my idea of going back to school was I wanted to get into the safety industry because at the time, with my work experience at that point, that's what I saw everything going to. It was safety, this,
Why is
safety,
that?
Well, it's just
It still is, yeah.
it still is. It's just
Right.
Litigious society and
safety is
liability.
something that's an ongoing deal, and people haven't always taken it as serious as they do now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of, I saw the industry, I saw a need for safety, and that's kind of what attracted me to it. And I knew another friend of the family that graduated from UCO with a safety degree.
Okay.
He was doing really well, working for an oil field company, and now he owns a quite large oil field company in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
He started as a safety guy, but met the right people, got connected. Now he's a business owner of Legend Energy Service.
Okay.
So, that's kind of how I started. I got into the school 6 months, a full semester
at
after
UCO?
I started. No, at Oklahoma State
Okay,
University.
Oklahoma State.
Yeah, when I started back at Oklahoma State doing my fire protection safety degree, I was gung ho, ready to do safety, focused on it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't doing good in school. I had been out for 4 years. It was super tough. I wasn't managing my time well.
Did you move to Stillwater?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I was about to quit school again. About to
Oh,
give
really?
up, and it's just kind of, my mom was like, you need to find a job. So I found a job, had a friend that worked at Luck and Bill Incorporated, or I had a friend that I was in school with.
Luck and Bill is trucking?
Luck and Bill is a mechanical contracting company based out of Enid. That's where I started my career. Dennis Luck and Bill, he's my mentor. Spent 9 years there.
Wow.
So, but they hired me when I was in college. Went in there and applied to do pipe fitting. When I'm not in class, to go help install sprinkler systems or really anything I could do.
Yeah.
Just because
General labor,
whatever. So they hired me. He looked at my degree, looked at what I was going to school for. He knew I was only, a semester in. And they hired me to help out with installing sprinkler systems part-time.
Yeah.
When I could. And I started that. And a month later, they sent me to design school for a fire sprinkler design layout.
Where's that at?
It was down in Oklahoma City.
Okay, so not part of
that's where you
OSU.
learn the flow losses and
Right.
volumes and everything you got to do.
And I'd had some training in that from classwork so far, but I really, at that point, I knew very little about anything. And, so I learned. Started designing some of the systems they had. Got into it, a couple months went by, and then I started estimating jobs.
Wow.
And
Why do you think he gave you so much authority, so much opportunity right from the beginning? Like, he sent you to design school. He's now getting you estimating. I feel like you're 3 months in.
$1,000 question right there.
I don't know.
Because he saw something.
Well, he obviously
I
saw
think
something.
So. I feel like he did see something in me.
Yeah.
Because I was very ambitious, very driven, and I feel like he saw something in me. I need to ask him next time I see him.
Because honestly, I see a lot of contractors that they hire someone, they don't give them the authority, they don't give them opportunities like that, And there's so much talent. We were talking about 2-second lean before this conversation, and he talks about all the different areas of waste. And one of the big areas is talent. Like you do not give enough opportunity to the talent that you have.
Right.
And obviously he did a great job of getting you. I mean, look at you now, obviously. A lot of that's because of what the opportunity he gave you.
100%. He let me spread my wings and fly.
Yeah.
And he let me learn on his dime, and he let me fail on his dime.
Yeah.
And I'll forever be grateful for that. And, it was a good position there. I learned a lot. I was doing safety also. So it was kind of one of those deals. I was wearing a lot of hats. And a couple years go by, and I've taken what they had, one sprinkler crew, which were actually plumbers doing sprinkler work, to having 5 crews, over $1 million in backlog work, doing service, and people running out of both Enid and Edmond office. So I had a lot of support internally, but it was fast. And then at that age, that was the kind of confidence I needed, because it 100% translated back to school.
That's what I was about to say. How much, you said you were struggling in school. How much did the actual application of what you were learning help you as you went through school? Because I feel like, I see interns all the time, and I feel like they have no idea. Everything they're going to school for is theory, 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 theory. And then they don't, when they get to go to practice, they're like, oh, wait, what?
It was an invaluable experience.
Yeah.
Makes it real.
And did your grades go up?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Were you teaching the classes? No, that's not how
it was a little bit after that.
That's not how they do it in the real world, Professor.
We had a lot of that for sure. But, that first semester was kind of adjusting, was a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
But once I started that second semester after I went to work, it's like the more I had going on, the better I did, the more I thrived. It was before that, when I didn't have that job when I was in school, I had so much downtime that I would put things off and just wasn't managing it. And once I took that job and started working 20 to 30 hours a week taking 15 hours of school, there was no ifs, ands. There was, this is what you had to do every day, and you had to be deliberate about it.
Yeah.
And I stuck with it, and it's been really good for me.
And I think that also, you mentioned once you had the more you had going, the better you did. I think that actually has a lot to do with your personality type. Yeah. I think you're a very high capacity and very visionary, high level thinking, and you don't want to be in the weeds that much. And I think that the more you had going on, it fit your personality type really well. And I think that's a good thing that you had, is the more you had going on, it allowed you to really think through things and keep things going, and that's awesome.
I feel like that's still the case today, because if I let up just a little bit, I feel like things start falling apart. They don't, but in my mind they kind of do, because I'm used to running at this level.
Right.
Yeah. So,
and we'll learn more about that as we go. So you graduate OSU, what year is that?
2010.
2010. And so you're at Luckinville still for what, another 3 years? 4 years?
2
more. Okay.
2 more years.
And so tell us about the decision. We have an episode on the evolution of a business owner. And it talks about going from employee to self-employed to, hiring people, more of like a manager, owner, and then going into an investor when you kind of step out. So let's talk about your journey with that. You were an employee for 9 years, you said, with Luckinville?
Yeah, a little under 9 years.
Okay. And at what point in that 9 years did you think, I'm going to go out on my own at some point? Was it 6 years in? Was it 3 years in?
3 to 4 years.
Yeah. And so tell us, what were you thinking at that time?
What prompted that decision? We'll let the record record there's a smile on his face.
There was a lot of things that prompted that decision. Obviously, being around family-owned business my whole life,
right?
Running
in your
a business. It's all I've ever known or witnessed. A lot of the friends that our family was friends with were their own business owners. Yeah. So it was just kind of a culture that I'd been around.
That decision was made when you were born.
Pretty much, yes. Pretty much, yes. And then some of the other things were, and this goes back to your evolution of a business owner, entrepreneur. I kind of got, of course, like anybody, I got a pretty cocky head, a little arrogant as I started learning and flying and succeeding. While I was going to school, and I had to do a lot of learning along the way. of how to control myself, my behavior, when to speak, when not to speak, and how to play that role that I just projected myself into, you know. And it worked out finally after a lot of hard lessons, but the biggest challenge was I was Dennis Luckenbill's guy.
You were that guy.
He had a lot of faith in me.
Yeah.
And when you got 400 plus people in the company, that rubs some people the wrong way. And after being there 3 to 4 years, I started catching some of that.
Because you're the pretty boy, the favorite. And
I'm his
they were
so-called,
jealous
I'm his
of it.
boy. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, the golden boy.
And I didn't feel like I was, you know, anything special other than, you know, he had his trust in me. I trusted him. I listened to him. I did what he asked. And we made the best of it. The big challenge we had there is, you know, both of his son-in-laws, which are both vice presidents of the company, and then their wives, which are his daughters. They were, well, the son-in-laws were heavily involved. Robert was the vice president of Edmond, Trevor the vice president of Enid.
Gotcha.
And now they run the company.
Yeah.
But great people. I just, you know, I never really got along with Trevor. He's ex-military and yes sir, no sir type guy, which is fine, but I'm a civilian.
Right.
So, and I treat with respect and I say yes sir, no sir, but, you know, I'm not.
Just things, it's just culture
Because
difference.
you're from Oklahoma.
culture.
Yeah, it's a
Right.
different deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, we never really got along. And then it didn't take but maybe a year and a half of the daughters being involved in the business before I was on a hot seat.
yeah.
And they would look for anything they could find to report back to Dad.
Yeah.
And just to kind of, you know, I don't know what their objective was. I just know that I was brought up in conversations at family dinners a lot. Because he had so much faith in me.
Right.
And they didn't because of I don't know why they didn't.
Probably because you weren't family.
Jealousy, or if I wasn't family, or what the deal was. But, you know, I made the best of it. And hell, even today, Robert is one of the best men I know.
Yeah.
Hands down. I had lunch with him a couple weeks ago. I subcontracted.
He's one of the sons.
Yeah, he's
Robert
one of the
Trevor.
son-in-laws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Son-in-laws, I mean,
Son-in-laws. And he's a great guy. And, you know, I keep that relationship open with him. And things are good. And, you know, but it got to a point there where Dennis and I sat down. I wasn't happy. I was miserable. I was stressed. I was not a pleasant person to be around.
Yeah.
Not even to look at. Every day it was just a miserable day every day because of I was making X amount of money for them. I was busting my tail to do it, which that's what any employee should do. And in my opinion, you know, if you hire somebody, you pay them, you should do the job you're hired to do.
Yep.
And I did that. But all the extra flack that came with it just made it more hard.
Stress.
Once you start getting questioned and then you get micromanaged and then you have some guy that you never even met that's thrown over you, that's in charge of you. Attitude started getting bad. And as you all know, I'm a vocal person.
Yep.
And I let everybody know how I feel. And Dennis and I finally sat down one day and, you know, with tears in my eyes, came to an agreement it's time to part ways.
Yeah.
He doesn't view you as a trader, though.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you compete directly with him? No. I mean, sometimes.
I mean, they've been around since 1927.
I mean, are you occasionally bidding jobs against them?
I maybe few a year.
Really?
We just chase different things. You know, the problem with Luckenbill, they had a X margin that we couldn't bid below, which was double what the average margin jobs were going for. So you had to chase government work, remodel work, anything that people don't want to spend their time on. You know, you couldn't chase the fast and easy jobs because you wouldn't win them at those rates.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that was, you know, I mean.
Well, a couple
that
of
was a
lessons
struggle.
there. One is yours. What I've heard you say is that you went and did and learned, but you weren't satisfied. You recognized it. You studied and you went back to school, got a job. You sucked up everything you could in that job. Obviously, you were recognized by Mr. Luckenbill. You learned from that. Then you recognized, I'm not happy. Making good money and having a secure job it's hard to break away from.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. There's so many people who are out there miserable in what they do, and they know they are, but there's that tyranny of the status quo, you know. I don't want to have to change.
Yeah.
So that's one thing to notice about Kris. Kind of the thing to notice about Luckinville is that he recognized your talent. For people listening, if you've got somebody like that, and then he also allowed a culture that eventually, it didn't destroy his company, they're still here. But he
Lost a guy.
He lost a good guy. You may have gone anyway because it's in your genetics,
Right.
but he lost a good guy. That's one of the things Monty Markham talks about when he has really top quality people. He says, I got to find a way to keep them because otherwise they're going to compete with me. And so what he did, he talks about it in his episode, but created opportunities for them with other stores that they could go run and scratch that entrepreneurial itch and make extra money, but stay within the sphere.
Right.
And so it's just a lesson from Luckinville that he didn't do that. I mean, I don't know him. He's been around a long time, so he's running a good business, but that's something to notice.
Yeah.
So you've made this decision well before you left Luckinville that you're going to start your own business sometime. You're going to be a business owner.
At that point, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because I brought in John. You know, that's how me and John got connected. I hired
Through
who's
the
John?
company?
John
We know.
William, my business partner. Yeah. I hired him from Williams Fire Sprinkler Company in 2008
To come to Luckinville.
to come to Luckinville to do inspections for us because I was also building a service side of the business
Right.
while I was doing everything else I was doing for him, and brought him in, and man, we clicked like that from day one. You know, just worked real good together, yin and yang,
Right.
polar opposites, but work and thrive well together. And brought him in, and you know, we just had off the cuff conversations like, man, we're getting, you know, we're making a killing for these people, which that's what anybody that doesn't own their own business.
I'm
at
excited
the
to talk
time-
about that.
How hard could
Thanks.
it be?
How hard could it be?
Yeah.
It's nothing till you get that first insurance bill.
Yeah. Till you have those accounts receivable. The guy owes me $100,000.
So,
You mean you didn't pay me?
yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, we had some conversations, and, you know, we just kind of kept it to ourselves for a long time, and nothing ever really blossomed from it until that day came. And, you know, I didn't have a plan for anything. My plan was to go work for my parents until I, you know, figured out something else. At that time, I was applying for Devon Energy. I was looking at even getting back into safety.
Gotcha.
That's just kind of how burnout I was. I applied with North Star Fire.
I mean, this is
Sprinkler.
after you had the talk
This
with
is
Mr.
before,
Luckinville?
yeah. This is before I'd had that talk. I'd been sending my application out.
Oh, okay. So
I had
looking.
interviewed with a couple sprinkler companies, big sprinkler companies that travel the United States doing high rises,
Yeah.
and that was something, you know, I didn't want to move out of state. Didn't want to. I was single at the time, no kids, and that's something I wanted in my future. And you know, if I was traveling for work, you know,
Wasn't gonna
city
happen.
to city,
Right.
that wasn't going to
Oh,
happen.
you can still get pregnant. You just
Well, yeah. But-
you can't see the kids as often.
can't see the kids as often. So,
Yeah.
you know, I didn't do that. Nothing came through with any of the safety positions. And so I just went to work for my parents for a little bit. And literally the 3 days after I walked away from Luckinville, I started FPS.
Okay,
Oh,
that's what
really?
I wanted to ask you. What was step one? He said you started it. I mean, can you even remember?
I went to the CPA's office and gave him the information, said I need this started.
Okay. Did you have John with you at that point, or
No,
John was
I
still at
didn't.
Luckinville?
He's still at Luckinville. My brother was at Luckinville.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was just kind of a unforeseen thing by everybody. It was just
Well, you know,
one minute I was there and then I'm gone.
people have asked me about my companies in the past. I say, well, how'd you do that? And my honest answer is,
You just
I
do
don't
it.
know.
You just do it.
I don't
just did
know.
it.
It's like day to day, but that is useful things to know. You can't, or people seldom get it all teed up and ready to go and walk out with a bank account and operating line, full scale employees, systems, marketing, phone number.
Yeah.
You got to start. So that it is interesting. Start with a CPA, then what?
Starts with a
I
single
mean, where'd you
step.
get your first job?
You know, I
And how'd you finance your first job?
started with the CPA and then, you know, starting out, the quickest thing we could do when we started out was safety. So I started offering safety training, anybody and everybody I could. I went to a lot of the associates of my parents' company, start doing some training for them just to create some revenue coming in. And then when I wasn't...
And it was just you at this time?
Yeah, it was just me.
So basically it's kind of a job. You found some work.
Yeah, I found some work. You know, the whole time I'm being paid by my parents' company. And, you know, and that's the whole thing. I was able to, I was blessed enough to be able to borrow some money from my mom and dad to get FPS up and running.
That's great.
And so we did that, borrowed the money, got things up and running. And one of the good things about when we started out with work almost immediately on the fire protection side.
And did we say, what year was this?
2011.
This was 11. Okay.
10 years this July.
Yeah.
There you go.
I know.
And
I'm
just
going to buy
quickly,
my anniversry Rolex this summer.
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I've been holding off for a while.
Get the one that you can buy on the streets in Italy. You know, it's a genuine Rolex, but it's only $16.
Right. Yeah. 24 karat, $24.
Okay, so we'll jump to that. But 2011, $0. Revenues 2020. I don't know if that was your best year, but kind of throw out
4.8 million.
4.8 million. Sounds like an American success story. Okay, back to the deed. You started out doing training,
safety training, things like that, and then we got Telgen, which is a national company. They are basically, they're a company that handle the big box retail, the chain stores, and then they hire vendors in
inspections
each state.
and things like that.
Yeah, for inspections. So we worked a deal with Telgen and then Centos, and we became their Oklahoma affiliate to do pre-engineered systems, engineered systems. And when I say that, I'm talking about kitchen dry or kitchen wet chemical systems.
I think it's a good point, because I think a lot of contractors still don't understand fire protection that well.
Right.
Let's go through like everything that fire protection covers, and just to kind of, in layman terms, if you can go through, you've got fire sprinklers that you see in buildings.
Yes.
And there's different kinds. There's dry and there's wet.
Yes.
What's the difference there?
There's dry sprinkler systems and there's wet sprinkler systems. Wet sprinkler systems it's a system that's filled with water at all times that's ready to discharge at any given moment. It just needs the bulb in the head to be busted, and then that head will spray until the next bulb's busted, and then that head will spray as well. A dry system, on the other hand, is a system just like the wet system. Everything about it is exactly the same. Piping wise and head wise, except for the system is filled with air or nitrogen.
Right. And why is that?
Well, that's because usually if you're using a dry system, it's in areas that are subject to freezing, that are not conditioned spaces, can't be maintained at or
like
above
a big
40
old warehouse.
degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
So a lot of that. So that's when we'll put in a dry system. So the dry system has a dry valve on it, whereas the wet system has a wet valve, which is just a check valve and a flow switch. There's nothing else in there really special about it.
Yeah.
The dry system valve, on the other hand, has a mechanical device in it that it's basically, you got your differential water air pressure, and that your air pressure holds that clapper valve down so water can't push into the system.
Right.
So once that air releases off the system,
Like when the bulb breaks.
like when a bulb breaks, it takes anywhere from 20 to 60 seconds before that valve will trip, and that mechanical valve that clapper valve will open and water will flow. And that way, it's a delayed response, but it keeps your system from freezing.
Yeah.
You can protect freeze potential areas.
So it's a lot of detail, but on a dry system, does the whole thing fire at once?
No.
I mean, you can route water. That's the only place there's a hole where the bulb broke.
Yep.
So the whole thing might fill with water and compressed gas, but
yeah,
only
the movies really mess it up for fire sprinkler world. Hollywood makes it think that all you got to do is pull a pull station or hold a lighter up to them and everything goes off. And the only time you will run into a system like that is that it's some kind of industrial facility or like an airplane hangar or something like that. And what they call those are open deluge systems, open head deluge systems.
We're going to put some water down.
A lot of water.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I've seen some of the locations you have literally water tanks nearby because it's that much water. How much water goes out on the average every time it goes out?
Oh, I mean, some of the heads we'll calculate will flow 50 to 60 gallons a minute.
So
Holy
talking
cow.
some serious water meters
That's
or
per head,
supplemental
right?
storage.
per head. But that, that's a 1-inch head. That's a 1-inch orifice heads. Now the 1/2-inch orifice heads, you can't flow that kind of water through them in a minute.
Gotcha.
But
But that's a lot of water still.
a lot of water,
Man.
So, and that's why we run into booster pumps and
Water tanks.
backup water storage tanks.
And so you do all those things too. You're doing
Yeah, we do
water
everything.
That's all
tanks.
part of the design.
Okay, so we've got the sprinklers. What else do you guys do in fire protection?
So we do fire alarms. Fire alarm. We do a little bit of security, a little bit of access control and camera
Okay.
work. We really tried to dive off into that a couple years ago.
Because it's
and-
controls, electronic controls.
Yeah, the electronic controls, access control, security, just because it was an extension of the fire alarms, what we were already
Right.
doing. But I've scaled back on that because I was spending money on something that really wasn't going anywhere. And I had to think back to that one thing that every business person I feel like should think at. Stick to what you know.
Focus.
Stick to what you know.
And we're a fire company.
Yeah.
So we focus on fire alarms.
Well, you had talked about kitchens. They're not the squirt thing, but every commercial kitchen, every restaurant, every
every restaurant,
There's a
every
big
commercial
deal in
kitchen is going to have a wet chemical fire suppression system. Now, this is different than a fire sprinkler system. It's not, the wet chemical, it's a chemical agent that's stored and tanked, and it's totally self-sustained by itself.
Okay.
So, and it's basically done with links, and they got nozzles over the burners.
Yeah.
Pretty simple. We do those inspection, service, install, maintain, you name it.
and they have to get
And those-
inspected. All
those
of that
kinda-
needs to be inspected every
Those
year.
can go off just based on temperature, right? And they can go off based on, cook error pretty frequently.
All it takes is a cook not turning the fans on and firing up the grill, and that thing will pop.
Yeah. And so you'll get calls like, "Hey guys, we're open tonight. There wasn't a fire, but we got to clean all this crap up and we can't run until we have to so we can
Yes.
get it cleaned up and running again." So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, and they used to protect kitchens with dry powder.
okay, so what's
They don't
that?
anymore. Dry powder is a mess, is what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
It's what's in a fire
In a kitchen.
extinguisher, right?
In a kitchen.
That's what's in a
Right.
fire extinguisher.
Yeah, it's sodium bicarbonate.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think I told you, but I ran grain elevators in Nebraska, and some of them were quite old, and they had these glass bulbs that looked like a light bulb, only a big light bulb, and it said, "In case of fire, throw bulb at base of flame."
Oh,
And
yeah.
it was carbon tetrachloride, and you just threw that bulb down, it broke, and then I guess that's a heavier than air inert gas or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, I wish I'd taken one of those because probably from the 20s.
some of the old fire protection items out there, they're so cool. I collect.
Yeah,
anything
I
can
wish I
find.
had that. And they had the brass fire extinguishers that you turn them over, and it always said vinegar and soda. I don't know what it was, but you turn them over and it mixed like vinegar and soda, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
it shot out the little nozzle. And
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I
cool
got
stuff.
3 of them at the office.
But
Oh,
we've
that's
come-
cool.
We've come a
Antiques.
long way.
Yeah.
So,
We really have in terms of that.
So you have all these different areas, you've got, there's a lot to manage there just solo. At what point do you start to hire people? Do you start to bring your business partner, John, in? Let's go through that.
John was brought in 2015.
Okay, so you were running for about 4 years on your own.
Yep.
Okay.
I hired the secretary that worked with me at Luckenbill. She wasn't real happy there, so she came to work for me.
Okay.
Helped me she ran the office for me, scheduling, everything to do with the office while I did the field work.
Okay.
And at that time we were actually I was renting a corner of my parents' office.
Gotcha.
Literally. A desk in a corner.
Yep.
And I had a 24-foot enclosed trailer that we refilled all the extinguishers in. That was my work area and storage
There you
area.
go.
And we did everything we could do. And then I hired a guy to come in and help me so I could try to sell more work and find other things. And then out of nowhere, Devon Energy calls me and offers me a stupid job working 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off.
Oh.
And what I mean by stupid,
fire
I mean by
suppression?
like
stupid lucky.
stupid lucky,
Yeah.
stupid money.
Yeah.
And I couldn't turn it down. So I kind of deviated for 2.5 years there.
Okay.
I went to work and I did drilling site safety consulting, working 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, which at that time I really kind of needed to financially wise, just because we just weren't making the money we needed to make yet.
Yeah.
And we weren't growing fast enough. So it kind of It slowed
that's the
things
push
down.
through, yeah.
It slowed
Find a way.
FPS down quite a bit, but it did help me reinvest in the company and personally, financially too. I did that, and then in 2014, when the Saudis tanked the oil market,
Yeah.
I got laid off there shortly after that, and that was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Really?
Because I came back here and I put 100% of my focus in FPS. John Vermillion had been brought on board 3 months before that.
Okay.
So we had finally struck a deal, and I made him a partner.
Mm-hmm.
And he came on, and I got laid off, like I said, 3 months after that. And, you know, it sucked at the time, but, you know, it was the
Well, you know, a
best thing.
great thing about this, you set a course, you start going, you had no idea what you were going to have to do, or that Devin would come in, but stuff happens and you're still maintaining the course.
Right.
And then they lay you off. Well, maybe that's a God thing, because they laid you off at the right time, put you back in focus, but it gave you some experience.
And I was always going to stay the course, because Devin was just
Did what you had to do.
did what I had to do. I needed
Yeah.
money, and it was 6-figure plus money.
Yeah.
And, and it was only had to work 2 weeks a month. I mean,
That's why
half the year.
it's a coincidence that they're firefighters, but that's a common theme among firefighters. They have a business on the side, and then they work their 2-week shifts,
Right.
and they get benefits and things like that, and they build a business on the side. So,
Yeah.
well, early on, if we were talking to early Kris, maybe 2012, what would your ambitions been for annual sales that year?
$250,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always like to bring that up, because if the concept of doing 4.8 million, now, would that have really even entered your mind that we're going to do that?
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not at that time. Other than, long-term goal.
Right.
Sure.
But at that small and that early,
You have no idea how it's possible.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, now I can kind of put my thumb on what's attainable and what's not.
Right.
With the size we are now and the infrastructure we have.
Yeah.
And,
sure.
and another quick question, because I'll forget to ask it, but how did you keep financial records early on, or did you?
QuickBooks.
Okay, so you started
Day
out
one.
with QuickBooks.
Mhm.
And this lady who came from Luckenbill, she could actually,
Yes.
I mean, people buy QuickBooks, but they don't keep QuickBooks a lot of times. You actually had records. When I met you, you had good records.
Yep. We've always had records.
Yeah.
I don't understand how people run a business without having records. It
Yeah.
blows my mind. I bought a business one time by mistake, and they didn't have records.
What business was that?
Storm shelter company. I was early on. Well, actually, I bought that storm shelter company. It was after I started FPS. It was why, because the oil field thing. I was making that money in the oil field, and I had a buddy that had a storm shelter company, wanted to get out, and we bought it, and I got took to school,
Yeah.
to the cleaners on it.
Well, that's one of the first things from the buyer standpoint. If they don't have books, that's a really good indication that you don't know what you're buying.
Right.
Yeah.
But you got to get in.
Rookie mistake. I learned early. It was an expensive learning mistake, but that I feel like the lessons I learned while I was dealing with that for the short year and a half, they really molded me for today.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
I'm very strategic about decisions I make anymore, especially when it comes from, when it comes to growing and projecting what's coming
Yeah.
and just trying to balance.
How often do you look at your books? Information from
I
your
try
books.
to every Monday morning. Sometimes if the information's not on my desk, ready to go Monday morning, I'll forget about it by the time the week goes by. So most of the time it's every Monday.
Yeah.
I take a look.
Just quickly, what are you looking at?
Accounts receivable, go through and see anybody that's over 60 days, flag them, see if, obviously I'm flagging a lot of the same people, but I'll
Yeah.
also look to see what ones have paid that we've been on.
Mm-hmm.
And then I look at the accounts. I look at the account. I look at the P&L, accrual basis P&L, just so I can kind of see exactly where we're at with what we've built out so far this week, what's been inputted, and just kind of expenses, other expenses.
It gives you an idea. Yeah, that I don't want to belabor it and take this entirely to books, but it's so important and so many people don't have them.
Yeah.
But there's a voice of experience.
And one thing that I've learned from experience is the minute you stop looking at your books is when your books go to crap. Which is crazy to think that can be the case, especially with a company you got 50 employees, but it's true.
Well, it's a principle we can talk about. It doesn't have to be you all the time, but when you quit looking at anything, it tends to go to crap.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you have to beat people up, but people need to know that you're watching. They need to have goals. They need attaboys. It's not all about chewing butt. It's about giving credit. But when you quit looking, it's like gravity. It pulls down you 24/7, and it's pulling down.
So early on, what led to the growth and success of FPS early on? You have John now at 2015, 2014. You've left Devin and you put all your attention towards it. What did you guys first focus on? Was it sales? Was it
contract? I focused on nothing but contract work, selling fire sprinkler inspection jobs. And I was like a machine. I sat there and bid for 10 hours a day. I bid every job that I could get come in.
Yeah.
We bought a subscription to this thing called I Square Foot.
Yep.
Which I don't have the subscription anymore because I get so many email bid requests.
But you went up on the list, yeah.
I'm on the list now.
Yep.
But establishing ourselves on a bidders list across the whole state to all the contractors, that's kind of what we had to do in the beginning. And I just bid everything I could bid. And, I was working with a fellow competitor of mine, Mr. Jim Kansky. And he kind of mentored me a little bit, too, on estimating because he is an amazing estimator. And I would run some of the projects by him that we weren't bidding on together, the same projects, and have him kind of check my numbers at first just because it had been a while since I'd bid sprinkler work. And, got that comfortable. And, man, we started landing jobs and, boom, boom, boom. Whole time that's going on, John is out there doing the fire sprinkler and the fire alarm inspections.
Which is kind of service.
Yeah, which is service side.
Service.
Yeah, it's a service side.
Service and construction, kind of a way to think about it.
And we had 2 guys on that side working for us, and then we had 2 extinguisher guys. So I think we were setting at 2015. I think we were setting at right around 6-7 employees throughout the year. And by the end of that year, it drastically climbed.
And why was that? Just because of all the bidding you were doing?
Contract work. Yeah. I mean, we started landing job, just back to back to back. And
how did you finance them? You start getting general contract. Well, you're not general contract work. Those guys don't pay you every Friday usually.
I got really good vendors.
Oh, okay.
And not just good vendors. I have good relationships with my vendors.
Right.
So you're able to get material ahead of time and stuff?
Number one source of financing for contractors.
Right. Well,
is payables.
But
did you talk to, or did it, how did you cultivate a relationship where you could owe them lots of money and them not breathing on your neck and cutting you off? We're not shipping you any more pipe till you pay the last load, all that.
Well, they have a job sheet, like a job each. So you go in there and you can take an order and you can put it on your shop account, or you can take an order and put it on your job account. Okay. And your jobs account are tied to each job, so they more or less secure it. We have to gather the bonding information from the general contractor, owner information, and then they secure it for us. Now, they'd like their money as quick as they can get it, but they're really good. They'll let us set 75 days, and usually on the contract we can have, it's supposed to be net 30, but in reality we're paid net 60, and then we can get it out to them by 75, and they're happy. And Ameripipe, they've been amazing.
This is a huge deal. You worked with your vendors. That didn't just happen. You talked to them.
I worked with them.
I'm aware of those job accounts. Yeah.
I was a young company. We didn't have a huge bankroll. We didn't have big investors. We were Ma and Pa rubbing 2 dimes together trying to make it work, more or less. And I just told them, I was like, I was honest with them. I was like, I'm like, this is going to be taken care of. We won't have any problems, and we have stuck to that. And we take care of business, and we have
communication with your vendors. Though.
That's the whole thing.
Honest, open communication. You're not trying to trick anybody or put them off or not answer their phone calls.
And that's what's always frustrated me with people in general. It doesn't matter if you owe me money, I owe you money, or it's not even about money. You take the call.
Yep.
You talk to people.
Yeah.
You let them know what's going on. Otherwise, people start getting upset. Like when people don't communicate with me, that's when I go to my lawyer and I'm like, get the process started.
Yeah.
Like if they're not going to communicate with us, if they're not going to make any effort at all, we're going to go this route because we've got to get what's ours.
What causes you to assume is what it is.
That's it.
Your expectations, you have zero, and so you have to assume your expectations, and that's when it goes south.
I'd rather a guy answer the phone
And give you
tell
terrible
me he
news.
can't and give me terrible news
Yeah.
than not answer his phone at all.
Yep.
So
That's what my brother-in-law says. He says, I'd rather owe you than cheat you out of it. No,
Absolutely.
that's a main takeaway here. That's been central to everything you've done since I've known you, and it sounds like forever, is open, honest communication.
well, and then the banking relationship was another big one. So one thing I learned from my mom is take care of your banker always. Always, always, always make sure your banker is taken care of.
Why is that?
I mean, just so you got a good relationship with them. So if things ever get tough, you can walk in there and you're not having to scramble.
Yeah.
And, that's what we do. I remember starting out, they had their doubts about us. We were young.
The bank, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the bank. I mean, it wasn't an issue borrowing money to buy vehicles, but borrowing money to get in a revolving line of credit, that was the tough issue we had. Once we got through that, they were good. But I went in there, I was deliberate about it. I went in there every month. I met with my banker. I sat down. I went through all the jobs that we had won that are coming up. We added our backlog, and I went through our P&Ls with him. Every month I'd go in there for 30, 45 minutes to be like, this is where we're at this month. This is where we're going. And I did that up until, this guy was the president of the bank at the time, and then he kind of put me off to one of the loan officers there because he couldn't handle it. I did it all the way up until about that, and then I just started emailing him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But that's another thing. You had books.
Yeah.
right.
Can't email the bank books if you don't have books.
Exactly.
Or financial.
So, what do you feel like was a tipping point whenever for FPS where you're trying to grow, you're bidding all these jobs, you're trying to establish these relationships with vendors, with bankers, all this stuff. At what point did it kind of just tip and it was just not smooth sailing, but you guys were on this roller coaster and it was clear. It wasn't just like, can we make it? Can we make it? Can we get more jobs? Can we get more work? What point did you feel like you guys were established?
Mid 2018, probably. I
Okay.
kind of felt like, I feel like that's probably when we were mostly established. Or, I could even fast forward to the spring of 2020 when we moved into our new office, and
That felt big time.
it felt like a huge move for us. And we had a great foundation, a great name. Trucks are all over town, and they're noticeable.
Yep. I see your trucks everywhere. And I see your tags. I'm always looking at tags now on fire
On
extinguishers.
fire
When you walk
extinguishers,
into any place like Chipotle, start seeing FPS there.
Everywhere, man.
Yeah.
It's a good feeling, and that's something that used to excite me when I would be out and about and see my tags. It made me proud.
Oh, absolutely.
My daughter, she loves seeing that tag. She's like, Daddy, that's your tag.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that is, honey.
And it's always funny. I'm at a place and I'll see like another company tag on there, and I'm like, man, we gotta get in this place.
I know, man.
It's
Yeah,
funny.
I kind of feel like there's been so many amazing things that have happened to me, and I've been blessed with over the years. And from being asked to be on state licensing boards, to being invited to be on organization boards, to kind of being a person that people call if
Be the go-to guy.
go-to guy. Got a great relationship at the Capitol lobbyist, because we're always battling to protect our industry licensure-wise, and that's made me feel real good about kind of what I've built. That people look at me and they have a sense of respect for me and what I've done, and what I've done is the proof in that.
Right.
And in the beginning, it was kind of, I never really embraced my competition like I do now, and if you'll have me, I'm friends with you as a competitor.
Yeah.
I don't have time to worry about my competitors. I'd rather be allies with them, call them when I'm in a pinch. If I need it, we always might need something.
Yep.
So, and, I don't know. I I feel like about 2018 was that year, that things really started happening where I was started being known, if you will. We started having people walk in to apply. We've got business walking in.
Yeah, that's great. And so from 2018, you felt like that tipping point. A lot of times, that's where people kind of get stagnant, and you didn't. You continued to kind of really reach up. I mean, you doubled since then, at least, right?
Yeah, almost.
Yeah. So what is it that helps you to do that? How did you kind of double up there and keep going?
I don't really know. I mean, we just kept doing what we were
Excelsior,
doing.
because always going, always got the energy. I mean, you see it.
Yeah, I just, work kept coming in.
Yeah.
Things being assigned to us. We even raised our prices and we're still winning work, and just going and going and going. And we finally got to the point now where we're trying to kind of balance out in a way.
What do you mean by that?
Just to take a breath,
Mm-hmm.
Set.
Yeah, I think we
year.
one time talked about a consolidation year because,
Yeah.
I know you've acquired a company besides that storm shelter, and you grow. Those things all require capital. You got to get more people. You've got to assimilate them into your company. And I know, and we had talked about that one time. Let's take a year where we just consolidate, which in a lot of respects means accumulate some cash.
Well, that's our year this year.
Yeah.
That's kind of what our plan is this year, is just to kind of hold what we've got and
Make it better,
just
better.
maintain and really work on it and catch up and take a breath. I mean, we haven't taken a breath since 2014, 15. I mean, it's just been boom, full steam ahead.
Yeah.
And with that goes cash. If you're growing, you're spending all your cash.
Yep.
And that can be extra stressful.
Yeah.
As all business owners know.
Absolutely.
So, and we've kind of reached a point I would love to be huge and have offices in 5-6 states. That'd be great. But at that point, I probably won't have much to do with the company.
Exactly. It's true.
Building a company that can get. I was going to ask you what your vision is, and I don't necessarily mean, if it's to be in 5 states and not be involved, but what kind of is your vision for the future of the company? And it might be that you just want to have enough cash that you don't worry about stuff. I don't know.
My vision for the company is we've got that Tulsa office that I acquired last year from the company, and with that came licensure in Arkansas, and we've got work out there, and our reach to western Arkansas is a lot easier. So once we kind of get the Tulsa office balanced out, where I feel like we're in a good position, I'm going to make a push on northwest Arkansas, and then at that point, that's probably, I haven't thought much past that.
Well, I mean, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And then the other thing is, I'm also, I've gotten acquisition offers, letters, not like actual offers for the company, but letters to discuss it, at least one a month for the last 2 years, and I'm starting to look at them a little differently now. I'm actually intrigued by them.
Right.
Not that I'm saying I'm ready to sell, because that's going to be another thing, is I'm going to want to be very particular on who I sell to, because I'm selling my legacy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to sell out to some big corporation that's got 100 offices throughout the United States, or some, market equity capital group that they don't know anything about fire protection. They're just buying a business to milk it for cash, and then they're out.
Yeah.
So, I want to try to find,
something that lasts.
something
survive.
that lasts.
Well, those are all part of a vision. That's your idea. Is build
Yep.
build a legacy.
And even if I sold this business to someone else and the name state should change, I wouldn't matter. It's just, I've watched what happened to Mac Systems, and they sold out to a huge company, which actually called us to acquire us too, but I wasn't interested. And they're just going down the toilet right now. They're losing customers right and left. They're losing people. It's been a rough go for them, because people in Oklahoma are used to that huge, big time corporate feel, especially in the fire protection business. Most of it is people, they work for companies where you can pick up the phone and call somebody.
Yep.
And if you need to talk to the owner, you can get a hold of them.
Yep.
And at Summit, they got to talk to 25 people before they can make a decision. And that that makes things hard for people. And
Yeah.
Bureaucracy.
I don't want my company ending up like that if I
Sure.
walk away from it someday. Because when I sell it, I'm going to stay for 6 months and I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm not going to work for somebody.
And that just to clarify, Mac Systems is a competitor. They
Yeah.
were big in Oklahoma.
Mac Systems was my vision when I opened FPS. I wanted to be Mac Systems, and we are Mac Systems now.
Yeah.
Mac
Absolutely.
Systems is
And
no
they
longer
are.
Mac Systems.
Yeah.
They're Summit.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And I've seen their trucks in the past, but I've seen them a lot less lately.
yeah.
So
I think they still have a bunch of trucks that are running around with the Mac.
that's what I'm
decals
saying.
on
Yeah,
them.
the Mac logo. That's yeah. So I want to talk about but go back to that evolution of a business owner. You get to 2018, for example. The roles that you filled that got you to 2018 are a little bit different than the roles you play today. What were those roles? How did you begin to delegate those roles? Who did you hand off to what? How has your role changed over the years?
My role over the years changed by stepping back from the business and working on the business as a whole instead of just grinding every day, scrambling, trying to get all the items done that I had to accomplish that day.
Getting on job sites.
Yes. And our big step was I hired a young lady named Kaylin, which I've mentored, and she's kind of a
great.
protege. She's done awesome. I hired her right out of college.
From OSU, right?
From OSU,
Same
same degree.
Yeah.
And it was a big step, but we started her out doing designing, and I was still doing the project management at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And after about a year, she had learned enough, and we had made the decision that subcontracting out all of our design work would be a lot more efficient and cost a lot less. And then I could utilize her for project manager.
She's doing project management.
Yeah, now she's a project manager. She does great. So she manages all of our projects company-wide, which that was a huge relief off my shoulders right there.
Yeah.
Getting John bought in to where he's 100% bought in to running the service and like working into the service instead of out doing inspections. That was another big part of it. And, he took that over and he embraced it once he kind of found his groove and what he needed to do.
Yeah.
And then, we've just put a superintendent in the field.
Yep.
And just the rest is just added people as we need them. On the service side right now, we're kind of in the. We've started to. Well, we haven't started. We've been forced to the point that we need to get a service manager.
Yeah.
So
Things have blown up.
Yeah, we're working. We're trying to work around that to figure out how we want to position because all that's overhead.
Right.
You know?
I was just going to say, it adds overhead, but there's a point where you get more work done that pays the overhead and gives you more.
Right. Well, and if you're scrambling to get the work done you have because you have too much work, you're not efficient. You're better off hiring more people.
But that might be where a manager comes in and makes you more efficient, like the 2-second lean type stuff.
Right, yeah.
It's always those little things that you do that gets one more job per truck per day.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't cost you any more because you're already paying the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when you hired Kaylin, delegation is a big deal. How did you have the work for her when you hired her, or was it just like you just said, oh man, I'm going to be adding this overhead? Is it worth it? I mean, with little nerves from
Every person I hire to this day, I think about how it's going to affect our weekly cash flow.
Okay, well, that's an important, but you did it. And I mean, you've already said it, but what was the effect of hiring Kaylin?
It was huge.
It
took weight off my shoulders.
Right, but you didn't know it when you hired her. You
Right.
had to wait those 3 months or whatever.
Right.
That's my point for people is if you are going to grow from 0 to 4.8 million, and if you're going to continue to grow, you can't do it all yourself.
Well, that's the whole
And
thing.
you're going to have to pull the trigger on somebody.
The problem, well, it wasn't really a problem. I hired her, got her in there, we got the superintendent in there, and I was still trying to do the job.
Yep.
You were still doing the work.
I finally removed myself from everything.
When? What changed that?
Oh, I mean,
Stress?
Talk
Yeah,
about
stress.
Yeah, how did you what actually happened?
Like,
I
what
mean,
job were
were
you
you sitting
on?
at your desk? I know your desk got a lot of deer heads and stuff, but sitting at your desk going, why am I doing this? I mean, was there a
I think
day?
it's
Was
on
there
the
a
ride
minute?
home. I was sitting in the silence trying to do some self-reflection and just think about everything that had gone on. And it's just like, I told myself, it's like, look, you either got to do it or you got to figure out some other way to run your business. You either got to have somebody run it for you and you do what you do, or you got to start trusting people and letting them do it. And it's not a matter of trust. It's a matter of dependability. Are they going to get this handled? Because we work so hard to develop a relationship.
That sounds like trust to me. I mean, that dependability, huge.
But it just took some confidence. It just took a little bit of, it's a gamble. I mean, everything's a gamble in business.
Major message from this podcast is that one right there.
Yep. Well, I mean, it also goes back to Dennis. I mean, he trusted you, and it's also because he knew he didn't have the time. He knew he didn't have the capacity to do it. And he probably learned that lesson way beforehand. And I think, it goes back to, I don't forget the exact quote, but it's, surprise people with how you trust them and let them surprise you with the results or whatever, something along those lines. And I think that's what it is. I mean, once you finally started trusting Kaylin, I'm sure she surprised you multiple times.
Right. Well, and then that's kind of, she has surprised me. She's excelled. And then everybody else that we've delegated to, they're excelling too. I mean, we've had some guys that are kind of on the fence, but we're coaching them. The whole thing is we're coaching them like, look, this ain't working and this is why. You got to improve here or this isn't going to work. You know, and that's been good. And it's still going good. Like, I'm getting better and better about it. I mean, we just made a huge cut and cleaned up our bottom line. I mean, we saved almost 20% off of our monthly overhead costs just by going through and just wiping out all the unnecessary things that we just been spending money on.
Right.
And that's like reoccurring charges every month. So the last thing I want to do is bring in a bunch of overhead. But I've been real creative with how I've added overhead here lately. So I'm thinking about the future because I always think about what's going down the road and what's soon to be coming. And I just hired a guy. He just graduated Oklahoma State University, fire protection engineering degree. And I've hired him for the Tulsa office. And my whole goal with him is to mold him into another Kaylin.
Yep.
And except he's going to be starting out in the field for the first year.
Okay.
Actual working, installing the systems, understanding what he's doing.
Right.
And not only am I going to mold him into a fire sprinkler project manager or estimator, he's going to be a fire alarm one too.
Yeah.
That away. And that's a big deal at our company, is being able to
do multiple.
Cover all the bases.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because, I mean, I may need him to manage an alarm job and a sprinkler job.
Yeah.
And the reason my thinking of that is we don't have enough work to justify the overhead for a project manager for each division, each office.
Mm-hmm.
So our people they got plenty, but it's probably the equivalent of the same person at another job where they have a ton of workload and they're the manager on it.
So why did you decide to choose somebody right out of college rather than choosing somebody who's already been a project manager on both fire alarm and fire sprinkler?
Cost.
Is there another reason?
I felt like I could mold them into what I wanted them a lot easier.
Yeah.
So
that's going to require more time, right?
Right.
But you will be saving some money too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is with the money is, I mean, he'll get the money soon enough. He's got an engineering degree.
Right.
So, and he's not. I mean, I paid him $8 more than our entry level makes. So I mean, he's not just being paid. I mean, I made sure it was worth him to come here. I'm like, look, if you can give me a year in the field, dedicate to learning how we do things and how these systems work before you start managing, it's like,
you'll get rewarded.
You'll get rewarded.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start throwing little side projects at him, like maybe jobs that I've already bid, but I want to have him lay it out. I want to see what you can do on this, or see what you can do on that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We're real big on promoting from within and turning people out. We've had 6 people that have started in our shop that are either on the alarm side now, the sprinkler side, or the suppression side.
Yeah.
And it's just, it works out that way. The problem I've had with going out and recruiting people from other companies
culture.
One, the cost. You're paying out the wazoo, and usually it's 20% more than they really are worth.
Right.
Yeah.
They've just been bounced around from company to company and competed. And then 2, they never live up to your expectations.
Yeah. Values.
When you have to pay them that price.
You run into value issues like culture fits.
Yeah, that's another one too. And that's a big thing. I talk every person I interview. My interviews are they're little. We have the interview with HR, and then HR leaves, and then I have my interview.
Then they come find out what the company's like.
Well,
They meet Kris.
Well, and that's what I like to do with people, and I like to sit there, and it's usually after HR leaves, I'm just talking to the person like we're talking in here. I get to know them.
Yep.
And I can tell within 15 to 30 minutes whether or not they're going to fit our culture.
Yep.
And if I have the slightest hesitation that they may disrupt the culture we have, I will not hire them.
Yep. It's so important.
It's huge because I feel like our culture is one of our strongest attributes right now.
And that's not an easy thing to just automatically do, because technicians maybe they're
Trucking
maybe
a buck
they're
and they're gone.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they can go anywhere, and they're just not everywhere.
Right.
I mean, they're not. Maybe it's changed, but
We've had pretty good luck with guys leaving. We haven't had too many people leave for other positions.
Yeah.
no, that speaks highly of the company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we just lost one of our alarm techs up in Tulsa. He turned in his 2 weeks notice, but he's not going to do alarms. He's moving out of state to go do something, and I don't even know what it is, but he's moving with his brother. Sweetheart deal. I'm like, look, you got to do what's best.
Can
for
start
your
their
family.
own company.
Go for it.
Yeah.
So,
Be like
How hard
me.
could it be?
I wish I'd have known that 2 months ago before I sent you that $1,000 alarm class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's talk more about this acquisition in Tulsa. We've referenced it several times, but tell us about the decision, what it was like. I know that you've acquired business in the past, but not like this. I feel like
This business had a lot more planning. The acquisition of this one,
Yeah.
we did our due diligence. We planned, we talked, we researched. I mean, everything. Felt like we were really on point. I was very competitive with how I approached them for the acquisition. It was an asset acquisition. I really didn't pay much for anything for the company,
For the Blue
other
Sky.
than the assets that I bought. And the Blue Sky, the work that they had on the books, like I didn't pay a whole lot for that at all. So, in respect to that, felt like we got a pretty good deal on it. Felt like things were negotiated out pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
I even went to the extent of the part of the Blue Sky that we had to pay for. It was a buyout payment after 6 months. So their work
didn't
had
have
to
to
come
come
in
up-
and perform for them to get the rest of that money.
right.
So, and the big thing there, biggest mistake I made there was the people I kept. And
Why
I
is
didn't
that?
keep. Inexperience. I had just had a vibe off the general manager that was there that he was the reason for all of the issues they were having. I mean, it was a failing office. They weren't failing yet, but they weren't doing good.
They're on the way.
And they just kept throwing money. This is a big national company that's on the East Coast and West Coast that just opened up an office there, and they threw people in position. And I just never got a good vibe from him. The guy wasn't a team player. He was all about himself. He was set in his ways, and didn't do anything by the book. And unfortunately, what I didn't discover until it was too late is that pretty much all he did was he somehow finagled his way into that position and then hired all of his buddies to come work for him and paid them an astronomical amount that they're not worth.
And then he didn't have to do anything.
And
I
he
mean,
didn't have to do
physical.
anything at all. And that's kind of where I messed up. But now we've completely rebooted that office. We have 2 of the original left.
How many were there originally when you acquired?
There were 12. There were 12 when we acquired. Of course, like any acquisition, we immediately cut 5 positions. Just
Yeah.
because, I mean,
You already have the people that do that.
well,
The office was
not
failing. and
only
there a
was
reason.
that, but they had way more people on staff than work they had on backlog.
Gotcha.
Or even work they had to do that month. I mean, to the point, like, there was 4 people just sitting in the office, and we're talking $30 an hour plus paid people.
Right.
And it was just very, very weird how they did things. So,
National account that nobody was watching. Well, they were, because they wound up selling it. But yeah,
yeah. It was just, I don't know. I think about this a lot, whether I'd have been better off just renting a building and opening up, because we already had a presence. We were servicing 500 and something accounts in the Tulsa area already.
Mm-hmm.
Or if buying that infrastructure and, the people in place was more valuable.
Was worth
because
it.
I've had to, literally, we've had to break down and just beat into them, metaphorically speaking, this is how we're doing it. We're not doing it how the other company did it.
Yeah.
Like, you guys you were acquired by us because of that.
Right.
So, and I feel like we finally have the two that are left that are willing to,
buy in.
And they have bought in.
Yeah.
And Don's great. Don's
Don's
so committed.
He's a great guy.
He gets the short end of a bunch of deals. The Tulsa market's real weird, and we've got Randy out there competing with us, which he has a non-compete with us, but he's violated it like
He's the
7
guy
times.
who used to manage it.
Yeah, he was the general manager that we acquired. So, it's not necessarily a non-compete; it's a non-solicitation of our customers. So, that's neither here nor there. I can't speak a whole lot more about it, but he's just been up against a bunch. But we're finally starting to make traction in the positive direction up there. So the first 6 months was a complete disaster. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. It was a nightmare. It was stressful on everybody. Our office in Oklahoma City was stressed because nobody would do what they were asked to do in Tulsa, as far as how the jobs are facilitated, how we're tracking time, when the paperwork gets turned in. It's like
Systems were different.
because none of them never had anything to follow to begin with.
Right.
They were just, shooting from the hip every day. They're just winging it,
Yeah.
And you can't run a business that way. And as much as I wish you could,
Yeah.
not a successful one. At least.
You don't go hunting shooting from the hip, do you?
Yeah, sometimes. Just depends what I'm hunting.
Yeah. So today with the acquisition, you guys have 2 left. Things are trending in the right direction.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we've hired new people.
Right, exactly.
We've got 6 people total in Tulsa.
Okay.
So, and we still send techs up there pretty much every other day.
Yeah.
But-
Just because.
Yeah. Well, and right now is a little weird time because of the Arctic blast we got. I mean, we didn't get. Well, we didn't finish all the inspections in February and only got like probably 20-30% of them done in March.
Because of all the work for.
Yeah, because we were
Well, the
shut
Arctic
down
blast,
doing
don't know when
repairs.
this will play,
Yeah.
but it was that cold that came through Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
January,
February, yeah,
of
like
2021.
February
and-
15th
Yeah, just
through the 22nd.
busted everything and had the opportunity to break.
Everything. I mean, I don't know what the total is. I haven't heard any figures from the news of like how much damage that costs from freezing.
It's a lot.
It's got to be in the
Billions.
hundreds of millions.
Oh, well, you add Texas to it. I mean, it's in the billions.
Oh, billions
Yeah,
of Texas
yeah.
in it, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's great. Like I said, I mean, we've had some really big invoices come from those repairs. Unfortunately, people are having to deal with,
The
deal
damage
with
done
the
by-
issues,
yeah.
the devastation. But, at the end of the day, that's what we all have to carry them high policy insurance
Right.
policies.
Right.
Yep.
So I know I'm going to make my insurance company pay for what I have to pay them.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely. So we've covered a lot of ground, and I feel like there's still a lot that we haven't covered. But Martin, what do you feel like we need to?
Well,
to
one
end with
thing,
here?
and this is jumping around just a little bit, but can you give any indication of, like, just because I know some people will be interested, what type of margins you try to get on new construction? 25%, 50%, 5%, 2%?
25% is something I've always shot for. 25 cents on the dollar for anything new construction wise that we're doing. And that's what every job I still bid, that's where I start out at. And then by the time I'm getting it ready to send out, if I want to compete on that job, I'm sending it out at 15 cents on the dollar
Wow.
right now. And that's just because we've got a lot of new companies that have popped up
Think
in
they
the
can go
last
do it
year,
for nothing?
thinking they can do it for nothing and do it cheaper, not understanding business yet. They'll soon enough, they'll be out of the game, or they'll figure it out and be scrambling like we were.
Yeah,
So,
and that's, I had a sprinkler company in the 90s, the other kind of sprinklers,
yeah.
irrigation, and no entry barriers. Guy with a pickup and $100 could go put one in, and they'd last, they'd do 2 jobs, go broke. But in the meantime, they're just ruining your market. Finally, we had to get, hey, you want it done right with a warranty or not?
It's so bad right now in the sprinkler market, and I've tried to have some conversations with fellow competition and just let them know, hey, listen, guys, electrical contractors are making more, HVAC contractors are making more, everybody's making more money except for us because we're too.
Because they don't know their costs.
They don't know their cost, and it's like a competition of who can be the cheapest. And I'm like, you guys don't realize how silly that sounds.
Right.
Who wants to be in a competition on who can be the cheapest?
It's a race to the
There's
bottom.
no reason to race to the bottom.
We've got that.
No reason.
It's not sprinklers, but we should do it for the industry.
Well, and I think a lot of it are, you've got field guys that they've been around it their whole life. They're like, oh, we can go do this. This is easy.
Yeah.
And then they get into business and, yeah, they can still do the field work. And then they just get destroyed by the administrative side and the cost
And the bonding
side,
and the insurance
and the insurance
and the
all
payroll
the other
taxes
things.
and the workers' comp.
Right.
Materials.
Unemployment.
Yeah.
Well, it's easy to bid a bunch of jobs that, with no profit on them in the beginning before you have all those costs. But as soon as you start having to man those jobs,
Yeah. If you're doing,
better
if you do all the
saddle
work
up.
yourself, what you're doing is getting a wage out of it.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So we had that circumstance in the cabinet industry in Tulsa, and we're working right now to have a meeting amongst people and explain margins and break even and how 1% better margin will up your profit.
Well, and that's something I was also
It's just straight up education. We're
Right.
not trying to collude or anything else. Say, hey guys, how's that working for you? Not
Yeah.
very well. Let's do something.
and that's I haven't had a chance to contact you yet, but I'm on the OFSA board, which Oklahoma Fire Sprinkler Association, for anybody listening, and I'm part of the event committee. I'm the event committee chair. So we're hosting our annual Boondog. We got canceled last year because of COVID, of course. But this year we're having it, and my big thing is we have to worry about colluding because you can't talk. There's certain things you can talk about amongst members, but my big push is to have
Understand
you
your cost.
come in
Yeah.
and teach some of these people costs because so many of these people that are bidding jobs, they don't understand costs.
no
and they're
idea.
destroying
At
our
all.
market.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say that they're stupid or anything because they're not stupid.
No,
They just don't have the experience.
They're bright
I
people.
use the
They just
word.
don't have the
I use the
experience.
word ignorant. And
Ignorant is a
ignorant is
great
not
word.
an insult. It just means you don't know.
You don't know what you don't
And
know.
if you're coming from driving a pickup and working on pipe wrenches, why would you know?
You wouldn't.
Why would you know? The only stupid thing to do is not go find out.
Right. There's been, and I'm all for anybody starting a business. If you got a dream, start it and chase it. All for it. But understand what you're doing
Right.
before you
Yeah.
mess it up for everybody else. And this year we've had 4 field guys that have gone out
Start their
and
own.
started their own business.
From your company
Not from ours. This is
Oh.
from in the metro area.
in the metro area.
2 office people, which were basically, they weren't really office people. They were partners in other companies that had a split,
Gotcha.
more or less. So,
Interesting. So, last thing I'll touch on, and we'll just spend a little bit of time on it. In 2019, Oklahoma had a law change that allowed.
18.
It was 18? Okay, 2018, Oklahoma had a law change that allowed for medical marijuana.
Yeah.
And immediately, you were one of the
I
first
opened a
players.
Entrepreneur.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that. Like was it whenever the bill went up, the bill was going to be voted on, that you were like, hey, we need to start thinking about this?
We were thinking about it probably.
Or right after the vote?
No, we had started planning when the petition was still out. We had started doing some soft planning.
Gotcha.
Just try to get an idea ready of what we'd want to do, and it got pretty serious. And then as soon as it passed, we literally started the company that next morning.
Awesome.
Did all the paperwork, got it all started. We were the 15th or 16th company to get our application in for licensing,
Okay.
and we were licensed. The vote passed in June, I think,
Yeah.
and then we were licensed by October.
And
And we weren't built out yet,
no.
but we had started construction, I think. We'd had construction started about, it was the end of October, early November for our first phase, which was just a flower room, a bedroom, and then kind of another little mother and cloning room. It wasn't
Yeah.
a whole lot, but it's all we could afford at the time to get into it.
So tell us a little bit about, the differences in the cannabis industry versus, fire protection. I know there's a lot, but it's kind of Wild West, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what business practices are like, what competitors are doing, those kinds of things.
Well, the cannabis business is about the closest thing to having a money printing machine I've ever done.
Really? Why is that?
You literally had to buy a money counter too, didn't you?
Literally.
Yeah.
It's because everything's cash basis.
It's just, the profit is just insane.
Really?
I mean, it's good money. I mean, we've 100% financed that expansion. I mean, we're almost $2 million into that building free and clear.
That's crazy.
I want to point something out here, though. You approached cannabis the same way you approached FPS as a real business with capital books, looking at costs, I mean, there's risk involved.
Right.
A lot of people who are out there doing it didn't.
Yeah.
Hey, I've been growing in grandma's basement for
Yeah,
5 years. I know.
winging it.
Yeah, I get a barn out in the country, and a lot of them aren't making it.
I've listened to so many books. We took trips up to Colorado doing research, and I knew quite a bit about cannabis before that.
I knew nothing about cannabis.
Yeah.
I had to look it up. Anyway, go ahead.
I've always been intrigued by it. So, and we did the research, and our biggest thing was this was a once in a lifetime chance to get in on an industry
Right.
that
At the
had been
beginning.
prohibited.
Yeah.
I mean, last time there was a prohibition, Budweiser came out of it.
Yeah.
Companies
really?
like that. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, huge companies.
Yeah.
And not that we're going to be a huge company someday, but the whole idea is yes, we want to sell sooner rather than later because there's so many people out there that want to get into the cannabis business that have the funds but don't know anything about it. And, they don't want to start from fresh. They want to buy something that's established, has a good footprint.
Just
ready to go.
observation, it's not just that you have a building and you've done your building right and so on. You got a lot of processes and systems that against disease, bugs, to grow the right kind of stuff, survivability, tracking. There are all these rules on tracking your inventory and stuff, right? Like,
Absolutely.
if it's ridiculous, some of it. What? And
It's
you've got that
kinda
all figured out. That's
Yeah.
worth as much as the building.
I talked to a guy recently, and he said that cannabis businesses, well-established cannabis businesses, are getting anywhere from an 8 to 12 multiplier on
Well.
the EBITDA,
Yeah.
Man,
It's crazy.
which puts our business well over 30 million
yeah.
worth, which just blows me away because I started that business with $10,000 in my pocket.
Yep.
I mean, we borrowed some money from another guy.
We need
but
to do a.
Me and my
you're
brother-in-law
you're a
literally
manufacturer. We need
started
to.
that with nothing.
We need to do a podcast.
Yeah. Maybe we'll come back and we'll bring your partner.
I don't know whether it's
Yeah.
manufacturing
And we'll,
or contract, but it has elements of both.
Yeah. We
Well,
can.
he's
we can
an
do that.
insurance guru. His background's insurance. Can't really do that much anymore. He's transitioned. He runs 100% of the cannabis operation now. So
Yeah.
that way I can focus on FPS. And I still have responsibilities over there. It's more or less sales than anything now. That construction's done, but
Yeah. Are you guys planning on building another facility or no?
we're not doing anything this year. We're catching up over there.
This is a catch-up year.
Because here's the thing, like I keep explaining to my wife, like, hey, we're going to stop spending money soon. Like we're making money, but
Everything's being spent somewhere.
yeah, everything's being spent to expand. I mean,
Yeah.
like just say we had our first side done. We got this big warehouse and it was split up into thirds, and we built out that third, and we operated for a year out of that third, and then we were able to generate enough money to pay off all of our initial investment and then to fund the expansion
Wow.
and to pay for all the operation costs during that. So our key is to max it out this year, stack back as much as we can, and then next year we're going to build a 6,000 square foot greenhouse on the west side of the building. So we'll add some greenhouse space to it, and then we're going to convert some of our rooms over to LED rooms and double stack them. So we're adding square footage without adding square footage.
Yeah, more from
Right.
less, efficiency.
Right. And we weren't really bought in on the LED growing techniques at first, and we would never
You
have
are
a
LED, aren't you?
whole farm. No. We're all 100% HPS and CMH. That's why I've got 300 tons of air conditioning in that building.
I have no idea what
You don't
that
need
is.
them at all for sulfur, whatever. What we call them, sulfur lights or
They're
High pressure sodium.
High pressure sodium lights.
not
Yeah.
yeah.
High pressure sodium and then ceramic halide. So
Okay.
it's kind of a mixed spectrum. But we've started to embrace some of the LED growing, and we're seeing that it's really doing good. So we're going to convert a couple
Technology
of our rooms.
advances.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
So those
Yeah.
huge, that massive HVAC unit outside that I've seen, this is not necessary with LED.
No,
Because that thing is
Doesn't put out the
huge.
heat.
yeah, that would be. It would be like a quarter of that size.
Oh,
If
wow.
it was just a big LED room, if not more, if not less than that.
Yeah,
So
crazy.
Yeah, it's just been. I mean, that's been a wild ride there. I mean, the negative part of it is I was over all the construction and I designed the facility. I laid it out. I managed the construction of it. That took a lot of my time and attention away from FPS. You know, which FPS is my bread and butter. That's my career. That's
Yeah.
how I look at things. And you know, Arbuckle Farms. That's my cash. That's
Sure.
that's my pocket cash.
You know,
that's my
last thing,
savings. That's my retirement.
Right.
Whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
as we're winding it up too, though, I want to make an overarching kind of comment that a lot of people make excuses. I'm not doing anything because of the opportunity you had. Opportunity is freaking everywhere.
It's
And
everywhere.
we're talking to a guy. It's to have the cojones to recognize it and then to take action on it. And so we've heard too, FPS, which started out as safety, but fire prevention, getting bigger and bigger. All the individual things you did, like hiring Kalen, taking a risk on the financing, finally turning things over to a project manager, then
Yeah.
getting into cannabis, doing it again, doing it right. Opportunities are everywhere.
Yeah,
For
everywhere.
all of us. It's not because there aren't opportunities.
You gotta be ready to roll them dice.
Right.
And I'm a dice roller.
Yeah, and that really, for our listeners, we don't want people to go drive off a cliff and chase a butterfly or something, but to make a rational decision, to take a risk, to roll the dice and do it.
Yep.
Do your due diligence and
Yep.
then decide if you're going to toss those dice.
Yeah.
I've got another client, Paul Casperson. He says, "Good things come to those who wait, but not to those who hesitate." And
I
he,
like that.
what's his other one? Is he says, "I may be wrong, but I'm never in doubt." But those two things combined, really,
Yeah.
be ready, and then, well, I don't know, I'm scared, and it went right on by.
Yeah.
I think another thing is that people can take from this is that some day is not a day of the week. That you've got to take action on things.
I haven't heard that said before.
And
That's
I
pretty
think
good.
I think also, just like you said, opportunities out there. There's opportunity to trust people, and you were trusted by Dennis, and that led. I mean, there's other things that led to it, but that was
Right.
part of your story of you trusting Kalen, and now trusting this new college graduate up in Tulsa, and there's people sitting around there saying, I can't find anybody to hire. There's nobody good out there. But if they would just trust in some of the people and let go a little bit and delegate, they can have a Kris Pettigrew running their division of their company for 9 years and help them get established.
You're totally right on the trust factor. I mean, and the other thing is you may have a rock star already in your employment pool.
Absolutely.
You don't even know.
And
about. So
you've
you
had
have
your
to
thumb
know.
on them, so they would.
You have to know your employees.
Right.
We've started doing quarterly reviews where I go out to each division manager, give them a sheet of paper. I was like, I want every person reviewed. And then they're detailed reviews, like they have to put some thought in them. And then I get everybody's reviews back, and then I go through and grade them into a spreadsheet. And I've changed people's positions based on what those reviews have turned because
Yep.
I felt like they're better suited. And now they're succeeding better. Like one guy we sent to the alarm side that was on the sprinkler side. He was just...
In the wrong place.
he was in the wrong place. It's just utilizing people, identifying what your employee is good at, and then utilizing them to where they're going to be best suited for themselves and for the company. It's not
That's great.
always about the company. I'm big on making sure the employees are thriving and are hitting their goals too.
Yeah.
Because if they're just coming here and it's just everything our company, it's not a good relationship
One-way
long
street.
term.
Yeah.
So, but trust, Emily, my wife, couldn't do this without her. She's been a big reason of all the success and a big reason for keeping me grounded. So I can almost guarantee you there's some dice I would have rolled I shouldn't have rolled that kept me from rolling. And We clash a lot over some of the decision makings because she's numbers, money in, money out, and I'm potential future.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Prospect. Makes sense.
Makes sense. You know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of something. But I feel like without her having me somewhat tied to the ground, I feel like that helps me make better decisions when I am ready to toss those dice on things.
You're not scared to talk to the banker, but you are scared to talk to Emily. I don't know if I want to bring that up with Emily. No, there's that old.
I'm about tired of my banker. They're kind of annoying. I'm looking for a new one.
Well, there's that old expression or old description, mom and pop business, and I think some people think of it as a little bit disparaging. It is not at all. Not at all. I mean, it's a classic. You know, and usually, not always, but usually, mom's running the administrative stuff and dad's out in the field. That's not always the case, especially not nowadays. But do you have those? Just what you said, you got that yin and yang, that balance.
And Emily's more like John
Right, quiet.
than me. Quiet, calculated. You know, me, I'm just like.
Yeah, we should have
Let's
had John in here for this podcast because every now and then we'd be hearing, and that'd be about what we. Hey, John, how you doing?
It's more of like,
Yeah, but he kicks butt.
Man of
too.
many
does.
words.
Yeah. Yeah, that is what he does.
yeah.
But he kicks
great.
butt. Yeah,
Love John.
In his area, I notice all the time too when things are kind of stressful. And John's just kind of calm. Maybe he's not, but he looks that way.
He does. He has a
Unless
calming
he's got that
presence.
hair twirl thing going on.
Well,
where
yeah,
he's wadding up that cowlick.
That's how he expresses it.
Well,
That's
my
great.
wife, she'll do that twirl
Yeah,
that hair
twirl
thing.
the hair,
I know
you know,
she's
and
mad
things
at
are
me or
nervous.
something if she's doing that.
Well,
So
Kris, how can people connect with you?
Learn more.
Learn more about you. FPS-technologies.com. It's your
that's
website.
our website. LinkedIn.
Yeah, you're on LinkedIn. We'll link to that in the show notes.
Kris
We're on
Pettigrew.
Facebook, but I don't get on Facebook anymore, so that would probably not be the best place
Sure.
to contact us,
Yeah.
even though I would eventually get the message. But really just calling our office, 405-842-8708, or going to our URL.
Okay, awesome.
It'll all be in the show
Well, hey,
notes.
we'll definitely have you back, maybe in your business partner, talk about Arbuckle a little bit.
Yeah.
And
that'd be
probably
great.
with that, talk about family business as well. I mean, there's a whole lot that we can learn about that.
Well,
so.
family business, I mean, that's huge. And
Yeah.
I like the mom and pa thing. I've always been big about running our business like a mom and pa company internally, but having the image of a corporation,
Yep.
Yeah.
you know.
Yep.
Well,
And it's worked
mom
out.
and pa implies trust. I mean,
That's
that's
it.
what it implies
That's it.
because that's your
And
partner.
family.
And family and disparate expertise. Cliche to say, but like I said, dad's in the field, mom's doing all the admin work. And that's not sexist nowadays, it's reversed. Dad's doing it, I don't care. But that's what it is, and if you can bring that into a bigger company, it doesn't have to be a husband and wife.
We spend more time with each other, coworkers and colleagues and employees. We technically spend more time with each other active than we do our own families.
Right.
Not that we're,
true.
you know,
Yeah, awake.
and it's just, to me, you have to be a tight-knit group. You have to have a good culture. You have to be like family. And that's why we're very particular about who we let in our circle.
Yeah.
You know, they've got to fit the mold or they won't
They
come
can
in.
ruin it.
Absolutely. And people are comfortable working. I mean, I have people working for me that say they're the happiest they've ever been in their lives working here.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal because anybody that knows me knows I can be a complete
Yeah, we knew that.
a-hole
People listening can tell.
if you're not doing your job.
Of course they yeah,
Sure,
you know.
sure.
But the thing about that, I mean, I'm always going to build you back up and coach you
Yeah.
after I tear
Richard
you down.
Branson,
Yeah,
it takes a whole different direction. It came up yesterday. Richard Branson said he's not concerned with his customers, he's concerned with his employees. Because if he takes care of them and they're happy and they're doing it, the customers are delighted.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, and you letting your employees know when a customer raves on you. If
Yeah.
Right.
if you're not doing that, you need to start.
Mm-hmm.
Because that means so
They
much
need
to those
some feedback.
guys.
Absolutely.
And you know, there's sometimes I'll just be driving down the road and I'll pick up the phone and start calling guys, just letting them know they're doing a good job,
Yeah, absolutely.
regardless of if I even know what they're doing.
Yep.
It's important.
Yeah.
Affirmation is huge to people.
Catch them
Absolutely.
doing something right.
Yeah.
Yep. So, it's
Well,
been a pleasure, guys.
Thank you
Hey,
so much, Kris.
Enjoyed it.
We'll see you soon.
All right.
Thanks for listening to The Cash Flow Contractor. Check out our website in the show notes or visit thecashflowcontractor.com.